Hello, and welcome to our short overview of Chapter 3. So, we'll be talking through a few of the social behavioral related theories and the roots of looking at behavior from a social perspective. So, we focus on theory because we really want to understand the systematic connections, the different levers and influencers, contributing factors, and make sure that we understand how to cultivate, encourage, uh, create opportunity for change. When we think about behavior change and we think about the programs we design, we need to have some sort of understanding of how the intervention will influence the outcome. And so we need a theory. A theory is a tool for explaining behavior. And so we'll be focusing on theory. We'll be talking about different theories that you can leverage to build programs, not to just help you impact a health behavior, but to really understand it and know why an intervention should be effective. Now, again, theories are explanatory. They help us understand. They explain and help us conceptualize models. So we call them explanatory conceptualizations. So we get that conceptual idea of how things are interrelated and help us understand interesting phenomenon. How does eating impact cardiovascular disease risk? And how do we encourage folks to change their eating behaviors in a way that can reduce their cardiovascular disease risk? And what types of interventions are effective when we think about nutrition? That is theory. Now, one way to think about theory is to think about how we use it in Western medicine, in Western philosophy, and how we use it as a way of thinking about whether or not something can be proved or whether or not something is falsifiable. So quite often we'll use theories as something we can test. And I talk about that in the research methods course, the idea of theory testing research. How can we validate, prove, provide evidence for something or against something? But in many cases, we're using this explanatory tradition. We want to understand how interrelated factors come together and what we can do to understand the background, the influencers, our role in changing behavior. And so there's different fields that help us understand that. A lot of the theories that we talk about in this course are from psychology and social psychology, but some of them come from anthropology, from ecology. We'll even talk about epigenetics and genetics and how it influences norms in our bodies and how we behave and hormones. Even some of the theories we talk about have an economic root, the idea of understanding behavior. And so we want to understand behavior, but we also want to acknowledge the past, acknowledge all the research and work that's been done to build these theories as we move from a period of what we call Enlightenment to modernist. The idea that theories have changed and been developed and improved over time. We'll even see some examples when we look at the theory of reasoned action and planned behavior later, how they started out with one theory and then they improved it. That happens. When we think about the basics of theory, not moving in yet into where we are with postmodernist traditions, but when we think about the idea that we need to have some sort of linearity or what we call order and regularity, an understanding of how the universe works. What is normal? What is usual? What is typical? What is the order? What is the rational explanation for things? And can that allow us to predict things? Have some sort of predictability. If we have this behavior, will we have this outcome? And we use a lot of data. And one of the ways that we look at it is we look at empirical data, we look at numbers and figures. And part of that is the idea of epistemology, developing processes to capture data that proves something, that gives us observable, tangible evidence. The idea of developing evidence that supports a theory, proves or disproves a theory, that is where we start when we think about theoretical constructs. And so the next few weeks, we'll be going through different theories. This is just the idea here of understanding the idea that theories are conceptualizations. They're ideas of how we understand the world and how different factors interact or don't. And they're not perfect. We're making progress. We use the scientific method to improve them, to test hypotheses, to experiment to a point where they can be perfected, they can be improved over time. Now, one of the things that it's really important to acknowledge is the idea of behavior psychology. And this is one of the fundamental schools of theory when we think about health behavior, is the idea of understanding people's behavior and motivating factors. So we start out with basic assumptions and understanding the idea of stimulus response. You've probably heard of Pavlov's dog. If you've taken a psychology class, the idea that if someone receives an enforcement, a treat, a punishment, positive or negative reinforcement, it changes the behavior. And it's the idea that we can shape behavior through reinforcement. What Pavlov's research showed, and even Skinner's research, is that actually that positive and negative reinforcement is much more effective when it's intermittent. I was teasing in my class during the last semester that think about that person that you rarely hear from and you really want to hear from them. If they text you all the time, those same reward signals don't come through. But if you hardly ever hear from them and then they send you a special message, oh my goodness, so-and-so said I look nice today. So-and-so said it was nice to see me. All of a sudden, you are more motivated to respond and engage. You've got your attention. Intermittent reinforcement is very effective. So we'll talk about some of those theories. Behavior modification. If I want someone to quit smoking, if I want someone to eat more healthy, I've got to have some sort of reinforcement of that behavior, or at least an awareness of the consequences. Now, different theories postulate different approaches, right? But this is the idea that we're looking at stimulus response. We're looking at doing something and having a certain outcome, whether it's created through a reinforcement mechanism or whether or not we're just educating a population. If you vape, you may have lung damage, right? Just explaining the pre-existing relationship. Now, there's a couple different features of behavioral psychology that's important to know. We work with associating ideas. For example, you can see here the dog associates the ball with the bone because they've been presented together. In the second one, we've got rewards and punishments, which we just talked about. And then another feature of behavioral psychology that's really common is aversion therapy. The idea, such as taking a medication that makes it hard for you to drink, hard for you to smoke, makes you feel sick. The idea that if we can create a negative association with an unhealthy behavior, we may be more likely to change. Now, cognitive psychology is a big part of what we look at and think about when we're developing behavioral interventions. And we're going to talk about cognitive psychology, humanist, and social psychology. So we'll talk about each of these. With cognitive psychology, we're focusing on thought processes, thinking processes versus just behaviorist. Your action, which we just talked about with behavior psychology, is a little bit different than just the internal thinking processes, how you organize thoughts in your mind, how you understand relationships, and how we can develop individual level interventions based on the way people think. Now, humanist psychology or humanistic psychology focuses on the idea that we're all humans, we're all growing and learning and developing. We're all motivated by different things, but we all have those need levels that are depicted in this Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We all have biological needs. We all want to be loved and appreciated and esteemed and have some sort of fulfillment, self-actualization. So humanistic psychology really focuses on the idea of obtaining these. And we'll talk about one great example later on in the semester. Self-determination theory is a humanistic psychology-based health behavior theory. And we'll talk. Now, social psychology is where we start to pull in the environment and the social world around you, who you're dealing with. So we'll talk about group dynamics and authority and how we express our emotions and coping mechanisms and gender roles and norms and attitudes and prejudice. All of those things that happen in the real world that impact our health behavior. We'll also talk about how social psychology reveals that our health behaviors are often more just behaviors, like we already talked about. I may go tanning because I want to look a certain way. It has nothing to do with my health. I'm not trying to be healthy or not healthy. I'm trying to achieve another goal based on a norm set by a group or an expectation. Now, we'll talk about several social psychology theories, including the social cognitive theory, the theory of planned behavior, and the social network theory. So we're going to get to all of these. They're all part of the social psychology school of thought. And social psychology is specifically interested in understanding the effects that social groups and norms have on the determination of our experience and how we act, our individual behavior. And it can be really easy to ignore responsibility when you're not the only one, or how it's said here is when one is only an intermediate link in a chain of action. If I'm only one vote, if I'm only one person involved, it's very easy not to feel like the responsibility is on your shoulders or to take something seriously. Even when it comes to your health, if everybody smokes and we're all just doing it, right? There can be that social norm that can negatively influence your health. And of course, social psychology is built off of integrating the concepts of sociology, the idea of the study of society and its phenomenon, of hierarchies and organizations of groups, and the idea that it really influences how we think about ourselves and how we understand each other's behavior and our behavior within that context. So we'll be talking about all sorts of theories there. We'll also be throughout the semester integrating anthropology, and specifically cultural anthropology, the idea of thinking about culture and cultural norms, what we eat, how active we are, norms based on our family and our legacies, our heritage, these beautiful parts of our lives, but that also influence our attitudes and whether or not we're likely to eat healthy. For example, my mom makes the most amazing refried beans as part of our culture. They are incredible. And they've got to be several thousand calories for a bowl of these beans made with, the manteca, but it's amazing, right? So we're going to talk about cultural norms, healing practices, healers, the idea of holistic approaches. So those all influence our understanding of the world around us too, and our motivations and our behavior. And then of course, our understanding of the biological elements. How much of what we do is based on who we are versus and our own individual behavior and just our responsibility, versus an understanding of this interdependent system that we live in. The idea that we are part of a shared ecology, we're part of a world around us, and there are many determinants of health. And I know I've posted separate resources and lectures on the social determinants of health, but this is where that piece comes in really strong, is the idea that who we are, where we live, the built environment, our society, our access to education, and quality healthcare services and employment, all of that impacts our health. And then, of course, I said even economics will be a part of this, right? Economic theory, traditionally focused on patterns of behavior as it relates to consumption of resources. We often call that homo economicus. In Latin, the idea of us consuming things. Another new field is behavioral economics, looking at the cognitive and the contextual factors that impact where the money goes, and also when things aren't maybe rational, right? Why did I buy that face mask? I don't need that. Is it because some famous celebrity used it? So we have to think about all those factors that lead to certain behavior. So we have a new kind of school of behavioral economics. Now, I just want to make sure that you're aware your first key assignment coming up is your CHA individual assignment. It's your first individual assignment where you need to find a community health assessment, choose an issue from that community health assessment, a health issue, a health problem, discuss it, and talk about the etiology, the background of that health issue, what you would do about that health issue. So your recommendations, what recommendations are posed in the CHA versus what you might do, and how you would evaluate it if you implemented a plan to solve this. Now, most students take about 2 to 3 pages to do this, but you can generally write it in about an hour, thinking about a health problem, how you would respond to that health problem, and providing a little bit of a background. I've linked some community health assessment examples from Knox County and from Nashville here so that you can take a look. And I look forward to our next lecture where we'll start talking about each of these theoretical frameworks that come from psychology, social psychology, biology, cultural anthropology, all those pieces coming together. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening to this brief overview of Chapter 3. I hope you have a wonderful week and a wonderful semester.